Hello, my friends. I know it has been a hot minute since my last video, but I am back and I'm going to do a video today for you on graphite enameling. I did a video about this about a year and a half ago, but I've since perfected it and learned a few things, so I wanted to share that with you. That's also one of my most watched videos, so I thought that I needed to do an update on that. To give you the lowdown on what's been happening over the last year, a year and a half ago, I injured my left knee, tore the meniscus, had to get surgery. I was on crutches for 6 weeks. I couldn't walk, I couldn't work. And then while I was on crutches, the other meniscus tore, a root tear, if you know anything about that. It's a really horrible injury and even worse recovery, and I'm still recovering from that. But I'm able to work again, which I'm really grateful for. So let's get started. This is my jewelry art journal, and I just kind of jot down into here different ideas and texture things. And the one thing that I've been really wanting to get back into is this graphite enameling with some of the drawings that I do. So this makes it look like, with this graphite shading, that things are kind of popping off the page, especially like this one over here. And I wanted to try to do this in enamel. So what we're going to do today is copper enamel with a white background, and then I'm going to use some enamel paints to get these fine lines on here, and then finally some graphite to put in some shading. I don't know I'll do these exact designs. We'll see where my mood takes me. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be enameling and counter enameling some copper, and then coming back in for the laying down of the paint and the graphite, assuming that you already know how to do the prep and the enamel and the counter enamel. While I'm doing the prep work for the copper blanks, I'm going to heat up my kiln to 1350 degrees. That usually takes about an hour, hour and a half, and that'll give me the time to cut out some copper shapes and put the white enamel on the front and a counter enamel on the back. Like I said, this video is going to pretty much begin at this step after these are already prepped. So I've done 3 layers of enamel on the back, a counter enamel, and 3 layers of enamel on the front. So for this I used foundation white, but you can really use any color at all. These paints will work with any color at all. This is a video about graphite enameling and also about painting enamels. So for this video, you'll need a or for this project, you will need a very, very fine brush. If you can see that there, this brush is a brush that I had. It's a 0, but I cut a whole bunch of bristles off of it to make it super extra fine. I also have a calligraphy pen, and I've had good and not so good results using a calligraphy pen with the paints, but we'll see how it goes today. I do prefer the brush. Also, what I have are Derwent sketching pencils. I think that's how you say that, Derwent. Sketching pencils. These are graphite pencils. I looked it up. This is a light wash, which means it's a water soluble graphite pencil, and I picked this one because I also have one of the regular graphite pencils, a 2B, but sometimes I like to blend this a whole lot and use water. You'll also need a blending stick. So if we don't get the results that we want with the regular 2B, we can always switch over to the water soluble and wet the graphite a little bit and make that blend in nice and billowy. So you'll need those 2 brushes, or a brush and the graphite pencil. And I have a little tiny dish here. This is just one that I enameled and made myself. That's going to hold our paint. And the enamel paint that I'm using are from Thompson Enamels, and they are called painting and screening enamels. I'm just going to write that on here so that you guys can all see that throughout this video. Painting and screening enamels. Now, they do sell these in a set of 9 colors, which I think was somewhere around $80 or $89. They take forever to make, and they are all handmade. And what they are is regular enamel powders, but they're ground up even further to a flour-like consistency, and then mixed with a painting medium. It comes with a jar of this if you buy the enamel paint set. There are 9 colors in that, and they're all pre-mixed. You can also buy them individually pre-mixed, or individually just the powder, and then you can mix this yourself. Now, they say that you can use this extra to thin out the paints, but really I find water is easier and makes it a little bit more fluid. And speaking of that, I keep these, my palettes, because you can just, I've had this for about 2 months now, and you can just re-wet this with a little bit of water on your brush, and these colors are all reusable. Also, the colors that it comes with, they're blendable. So you can create your own like shade of green or shade of red or shade of orange, whatever you want, or shade of blue. I'm really loving them. The other thing that you're going to need is some etch-all cream. We'll be using this after we lay down our black lines with the enamel paints, and then we're going to etch the surface of this so that the pencil has something to grab onto. When you begin working with these paints, a little bit goes such a long way. And I just use skewers, like barbecue skewers. You know what I'm gonna do? There we go. And you just want to give this a little bit of a stir, mix them well. And like I said, a little bit of this gets gloppy in there. A little bit of this goes a very long way. So I'm going to use this stick that I have to just put one tiny little drop or glob into that little dish that I have there. I'm thinking I want to start with this one. It's not a very intricate design, but it does look like one of the easiest that I might be able to achieve this coming off the page effect. I think the next one I'll try is something like that. So I'm going to do this in fast motion so you don't have to sit through the drawing of this and then come back in when we go to throw this into the kiln. I forgot to hit record. But the other thing I wanted to say is that if you mess up or you don't like a particular design, which I'm kind of feeling about this, you can always just wipe it off and start over, or wipe off whatever you need to wipe off if you mess it up or whatever. And that second one, I think I'm going to wipe it off. Also, while I am finishing up putting this painting on this enameled piece, I'm going to start with this etch-all on the other 3 pieces. And you just need just a little bit of this goop, and it goes on. This one I've kind of already done, but just a thin layer on top of that enamel piece. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then you just let that sit for about 15-20 minutes. And when you first wipe it off or wash it off, you'll think, oh boy, this didn't do anything, but there really will be a little bit of an edge to the enamel, so it's not perfectly glossy smooth, and that little bit of an edge is enough for the pencil and the graphite to grab. This is finished. It has to go in the kiln yet, and it's okay if it's a little bit wet, that's fine. It'll take care of itself in the kiln. And my kiln is finally up to temp, so I'm going to reset the camera up over there and take you over there. So what they say they like you to do is to take your enameled piece and wave it in and out of the kiln for about 3 to 5 seconds until the medium burns off of the paint. And otherwise, I've done it in the past where I put it in there and not burned off the medium, and it kind of pools it'll spread and sprawl, but if you burn off that medium, it won't do that. So I'm just going to do that here real quick. And I put it in 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, and take it out. And then I look at it for smoke. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. And I can see a little bit of smoke come off of there. You might not have seen that in the video, but I'm just going to do it one more time. And there's no more. So now this goes in here, 1,350 degrees for 1 minute. I'm going to set my timer on my watch. 1 minute. And I'm going to pull this out and let that cool. So that's cooling down, and I just wanted to show you that that black comes out really striking, and the lines didn't spread at all. I like it. And while that is cooling off, we're going to go back over to our pieces that are being etched. Okay, so these are all etched, and I rinse them off with soap and water. And then I also take a little baking soda and put a little dab of baking soda on there and rinse that off. And the baking soda will neutralize any acid that's in that etch-all and keep it from continuing to etch it. And that could stay in there indefinitely and continue to etch your piece. I've done it in the past with beads or glass, other glass things where I haven't neutralized the acid and it just continues to eat away at the glass. So be sure to do that. This is out of the kiln and cooled off, and you can see that that enamel is in there, and it came out quite nicely actually. It's smooth, it's shiny, it's exactly how I put it in there. So any little flaws are still there. So let's etch this. So we take our etching solution, our etch-all. I got this, I think I got this on Amazon. So you just need a little bit of this. And we're going to wipe that over the entire surface of this piece. You don't even need a lot. And let that set for about 15 minutes. And then we'll rinse it off with water and also baking soda to neutralize that acid. Now, I think with this one, I'm going to do something like this design, only I'm going to do it vertically like this. We'll see how that goes. So what I've done with this one is, because it was already pre-etched, I was able to draw in my design with pencil first, and I used one of these push pencils, get it in the camera there, and it has a real fine point on it, so I'm able to get a fine line. I drew it in with pencil, and now I'm just painting in with my enamel paints. So there's that painting, and that one is going to go in the kiln for 1 minute, and just like before, I'll fume it to get the medium burned off of it, and then put it in the kiln for 1 minute. Then I'll come back and we'll start some pencil etching. Here are our two pieces. This is the one I have etched, and this is the one that just came out of the kiln. You can't really tell that this has etch on it, but it actually does. There is a little bit of a grab on there. And now this one, it's all ready to go. I'm going to take a little of the etch-all solution and coat that and let this one sit for about 10 or 15 minutes. And the other one, I already washed off the etching solution and hit it with a little bit of baking soda. And what I do is just pour a little baking soda onto the piece that's wet, and then rub it in with my fingers and then rinse it off, and you're fine. Okay, so that's gonna sit for 15 minutes. Now we're going to start doing what we're here for. A little bit of pencil enameling. I'm going to see if I can get some of the shading on here that I did on my pen and ink and pencil drawing onto this piece of enamel. This one, I didn't make my copper piece as big as I should have for that, but it's just a test piece anyway, so here we go. And I'm gonna come in here and add in my shadow. I always like to come in on an angle with these pencils so you're getting more of the flatter side of the pencil. And I'm just gonna follow along what would be its shadow. I'll bend here a little bit. And that looks pretty good. Now for these little balls, I'm gonna put a little shadow underneath that there, and a little shadow underneath this one. And I'm just putting a little bit on there because then I'm going to come in with my blending tool and blend that in a little better. Now I'm just going to put some on one side of the ball to give it a dimension. And again, we can blend that in with our blending tool. I have to get an eraser. Now I'm going to use my blending stick. Come in here and do a little blending of my shadow that I just created. Now if you blend this and it goes a little bit further than where you want your shadow, you can always come in with that eraser and take some of that shadow away, which I'll probably do. And I like to go in circles to get that nice and blended. Come in here. And by the way, I'm using the 2B on this one. And the other thing that I want to do is come in on the underside of this squiggly weird thing and just put a little bit of shading on the underside of this to give it dimension. And blend it in. I don't want to really go over what I did in black because it will cover up the black and it will show. And now a little bit of the black kind of got etched away, so I can come in and go back over it with some black paint carefully and fill in some of that black. Okay. I'm gonna clear this up a little bit with my eraser. last little one. It's okay if I go past it just to get it blended. I can always come in and take it out again. There. Just sign my name down here. Awesome. All right, so here's our graphite enamel piece out of the kiln, and some of it has lightened up in the kiln. I only put it in there for about 30 seconds, which means that I could have gone a little dark. I actually thought I did go a little dark, but apparently I didn't go dark enough. Now what that means is that this is the etching that we did on it has smoothed out. There's still just a little bit of a grab there, so I'm just going to go back in and see if I can darken this up just a little bit and pop it back in the kiln for 30 more seconds. It didn't lighten up too terribly up here, but this shadow that I really wanted to show is just a little bit too light, I think. And just give this a little bit more, and then go back in and put it in the kiln one more time for about 30 seconds, and that ought to do it. And what I've done there will lighten up too, so it doesn't matter if I go a little bit overboard. The other one is cooling. Okay. All right, well, let's talk about this for a minute. What I did was, the mistake I made was, actually it wasn't a mistake, but then it was a mistake. First I enameled this piece, got my base coats on, and then I etched it. I was able to go in because it was etched and pencil in this design and then paint over top of it. The problem is that then I had to etch it again, and I etched it for too long. So now I have to re-etch this one again so that I can go in and put pencil in it. So it just set a timer or something. Don't let it go more than 10 minutes on your hand painted piece, if that's what you're doing, because it will eat away too much of your painting, and then you'll have to go over it again, which is what I had to do. So now we're just going to etch this again, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I am going to set a timer for 10 minutes while that etches, and then we can take care of this one over here. This is the one that I redid with some of the pencil, and something else got on there, but it came out good. I am happy with that. It's not anything that I would make a piece of jewelry out of, I don't think, but it definitely did the job and gave me some shadows, which I think, let's turn the camera this way, and then we'll zoom out on that a little bit, which I think is pretty cool. I think I can do better, but in drawing, that is, but that's that. And I even penciled in my name on this. Okay. All right, so for this last one, I'm going to be using the calligraphy pen. Now, I've seen videos of people using the calligraphy pen on these paints, and it just flows like ink. Now, I can't get mine to quite flow like ink, but we're going to try today, and I think maybe I'll have a better time doing it because I have a little bit of an edge of etch on this piece of enamel. We'll see. I'm just going to load up my, I can't see that, my calligraphy pen with a little bit of the enamel paint, and we'll see how this goes. I do know that you have to go quite slowly or it doesn't work at all. And look at that. That's the best it's ever gone for me. Oop, and there goes a pool of water. So yeah, that happens. I don't know if you saw that, but a big drip of water came off on there. Well, we're gonna have to start all over, because that stinks. All right. Let's see how we go. Definitely helps to have a little bit of a grip or a little bit of a etched surface to get the calligraphy pen to work. This is the best it's ever worked for me, which is kind of ironic because usually things go worse when you're recording yourself. And I'm just making a little stack of stones like a cairn. And I think we'll go oh, there's my 10-minute timer. So glad that I did that. I gotta go wash this off. This came out perfect. So if you're etching on a plain piece of enamel without the painting, go 15 minutes. It's fine. But if you're going over top of your painting, don't go longer than 10 minutes or it'll etch away your whole painting. We're just gonna set that aside for now while I continue to paint my little cairn. And if you don't know what a cairn is, those are those stacks of stones. They've been around for thousands of years, and they were used by mankind to mark directional things on trails, to let people know that there were humans, to let other humans know that there were humans around, and to lead them in the right direction. No, of course this isn't. I'm not going slow enough. So you got to go slow with the calligraphy pen. All right, there's my crooked cairn that would probably never stand upright in nature, but there it is. So that's going to go in the kiln, and then we'll add some shading. While the last one is cooling from the kiln, I'm going to start my shading on this one. And how many of you OCDers out there were really bothered by the fact I didn't put the lid back on my etch-all or back on my paint earlier? I usually am really good about putting lids back on because I spill stuff all the time. But anyway, let's get going with this. So this is etched and painted, and I want to add shading on these little rocks and pebbles. So I'm going to pretend my light is coming from this way and just shade on the opposite side of each little stone here, and then blend it in with my blending stick. These littler ones I'm just going to leave blank and use what's left over on the blending stick to get in there and take care of that. Now I also want to get some shading on the underside of this and on one side. And maybe I want like, nah, I was gonna put shading behind it, but I'm not gonna. It is what it is. Now, if you're better at drawing than I am, you can draw a whole pencil sketch with graphite enamels, graphite enameling. I am not so great at drawing scenery or people. Definitely can't draw people. But I do like these little Zentangle doodles with some crazy shading on them. And remember, you can go darker than what you think you should go, because the kiln will burn off, or actually what happens is it gets hot enough and it melts into the enamel and kind of disappears on you. So go a little darker than you think looks right, and when it comes out it'll look fantastical. I'm going to take a little off here with my eraser. Oops. Okay. I think I like it. I like it. So I'm thinking about adding shading like behind this. Nah, I'm not gonna. I do that in my bigger drawings, but this is just a little too tiny for that to read as a shadow behind it. So we're gonna just keep it at that. Okay, so here's our little cairn, and I decided I kind of wanted to put some like water in with this. So I'm going to go through and just paint this on, and I had some leftover blue paint here that I just added a little water to bring it back. And I'm just going to go in here and paint in a little water. This is probably better done if I were to have painted the blue color first and then gone over it, but it is what it is. And then maybe I want some green in there too, like some bamboo or something. Smaller brush. So this one I've decided that I would have to etch my whole painting again in order to get some shading in on these rocks. So the rest of this is all fired in the kiln, and I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit of shading on my rocks instead of the pencil enameling, but this or pencil graphite enameling, sorry. But this was a video for you to show you how you can use both graphite enamels or graphite and enamel paints to add a little different touch to your enameling. I'm just going to finish up this shading on here, pop this in the kiln, and then I'll be back. Okay, so we're going to call it a day. These are the 3 pieces that I made today, and I hope that this gives you a good idea of how you can use graphite in your enameling and even the enamel paints. This one isn't one of my best enamel paintings, but you get the idea. I hope this helped. If you found this useful, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.